Welcome to another episode of The Surgical, where we dissect very interesting topics. I nearly said something very interesting. The way it went, but today it's Youth Day, and I have very interesting guests that we're going to be discussing this year, the Youth Day. It's June 16 today, and we're celebrating two of my friends' birthdays, and I'm going to wish them a happy birthday as time goes by. But the most important thing is youth-related issues today that we're going to be dissecting. Like you know, when you come to the surgical, we dissect very interesting issues. We leave issues unstoned. We turn graves around. Dangerous, and we mix each and every single up. And my link is very bad today, but anywho, we'll get it right because it's cold in here, by the way. We're broadcasting live from the Civic Theatre, all thanks to the Department of Arts and Culture for borrowing us this beautiful venue. And we're struggling to get guests, by the way, so you must bear with us, and you must also give my guests, I must also apologize to my guests for this -2 degrees weather that was created by what we call geography. It's out of my control, but thank you for coming through. And since it's Youth Month today, we'll be talking youth-related issues. You saw on our adverts that we'll be talking about the economical impact that the youth is facing, or the issues that the youth are facing in the economy, because we know as the youth, we are all crying out there, ha re thole mesebetsi, ha re thole di-tender, ha re thole di-contract, kapa re graduatile, we've got master's degrees and we're at home, we're not finding any other work. Those are issues that we're going to be cutting. And I've got very interesting guests today, as you can see, and I'm very honored. I told you, I've got good friends. You know I always bring my friends to the show. And today I've got the one and only, the ANC Youth League Provincial Chair, the one and only, Mr. Makalo Mohale, who's currently the MEC of the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. And I've got my other good friend, which is Kamohalo Mohapi, aka Moe. She's the marketing manager for Sun International Windmill. And please don't ask me. I know you're going to ask me about Windmill. Yeah, that's her there. And I've got Lunga, my one and only friend. We went to school, me and him. Today is a civil engineer. Yeah. And I've got Malekheto. You also went to Brebna, right? Yeah, and she's a doctor. How do you like that? And you've got me, the one and only Tebogo Kotsi, a hustler by professional, an entrepreneur by skill, and a believer in everything that I do. So without wasting time, my guests, I'm going to hand over to you and introduce yourself to my panel. Remember, the show is unscripted. We didn't prepare questions. I didn't brief you on anything. All I need for you guys to be as comfortable as you are, and then we're going to be dissecting this very sensitive topic, which is the economy of our current province that I always touch on. And without wasting any time, I'm going to ask my crew. I asked for them. I have a surprise nyana. I made some supu nyana for Luna. So don't mind my crew coming into the set and delivering some kape supu nyana, just to warm up. So without wasting time, I'm going to hand over to our MEC, who's our current provincial chair for the Youth League in the province of the ANC, to just only give us the importance of this day and what it means to the youth of our province and so on. I hope I made you comfortable.
No, more than enough.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Let me help you there with just one issue. I know the name of the department that I'm deployed to is the longest and can be quite tricky. Is the Department of Economic, Small Business Development, Tourism, and Environmental Affairs.
Yeah.
I know at times it keeps.
That's why Rebita this day.
Yeah, this is, no, thanks very much. It is quite an honor, and I must appreciate the opportunity presented to us as the ANC Youth League in the province of the Free State to come and have this conversation with all other young people. Indeed, today we commemorate the 44th anniversary or year since the Soweto uprisings, where young people were protesting to the use of Afrikaans when they were defying the Bantu education system which was imposed on them. But at the same time, it's important to note that on the very month of June, we would also commemorate on the 26th another anniversary of the Freedom Charter since its adoption in 1955. Now, the relations between the two, as colleagues and all other young people would realize, is that there is a close relationship because the struggle of 1976, if one can make a linkage to the Freedom Charter, young people were saying we need to have education system which will liberate us. We need education system that will affirm and be a reflection and confirm the legitimacy of the state. Because in the Freedom Charter, there was a commitment to say what we strive to achieve is a society, or the people shall govern, which means that we need to have a type of society which have its legitimacy from the will of the people. Now, imposing Afrikaans on the black people and imposing that particular Bantu education was actually robbing the black people of their own humanity, because the content of that education system was not the same as the one that was offered for the whites. It was the education system that sought to degrade, that sought to inculcate the belief that as a black person you are inferior, and for you to be correct you have deal of the Freedom Charter was saying every person needs to exercise his own humanity. Everyone is equal before the law. Everyone needs to have this own self-determination. There shouldn't be a discrimination on the basis of either race or gender. But the most important thing, again, the struggle of the young people, there is a history to it, and it cannot be found far away from the general struggle of our people, which the ANC in 1994 has made quite serious strides in achieving some of those struggles ideal. You'd remember that the struggle of our people can be characterized that we need to create a national democratic society. In that society where we would have defeated all those oppression and the bondages that were brought by apartheid system, or as we are normally referring to as a colonization of a special type, which in it contained three interrelated antagonistic contradictions. One which was based on class, where where the working class were oppressed by capital, and the one which was based on race, where the black people were discriminated upon by the other race, which was whites, and the one that was based on patriarchy, where the rights of the women were not recognized. So the ANC government and the progressive forces in general, they sought to ensure that we demolish this in totality, and they cannot coexist with the ideal of creating a just society. So part of what we had to do in the immediate was to address all of those. But to be short, because we're still going to engage, I must indicate that the struggle of young people is located on improving the lives of the people. And at the center of improving the lives of the people is the struggle for economy, the economic emancipation. So much as we have managed to demolish all of those contradictions in 1994, we still have the bigger task, which in 2012, the African National Congress correctly characterized that we are now in the second phase of socio-economic transition towards achieving the national democratic society in our political program of National Democratic Revolution. So the focus now is about the economy. And when we speak about the economy, we speak of nothing other than ensuring that our economy continues to grow, to benefit the people of South Africa. But the most important, we do not just want the growth. It must be a growth that creates opportunities. And I think that is what preoccupies the African National Congress Youth League in the main, that in all of these economic activities, in all the policies that have been put in place, where are the young people located in those? And the strong view of the Youth League has that been, the young people must not just be the spectators. The young people must not just be passengers, if one, or just be taken along. But the young people must play a very crucial role in all of those developments. But the gist of them all is that for us to say we have received economic emancipation, is that the young people must be the owners of the economy. The young people must play a part in answering the basic questions of every economic systems on what, how, and for whom to produce. Because the dominant class in our society is the one that is still determining. And you would know that for as long as you don't have any influence on some of key economic decisions, automatically we know we can just forget about the issues of distribution of wealth, distribution of the income. So our struggle today, I think, as we commemorate the 1976 uprisings, is correctly located within that now our struggle in 2020 is to ensure that the opportunities that are brought by democracy needs to be to the benefit of all young people in various professions, and that they must not just go to school to go and be the workers, or they must not just go to school and be the spectators when other races continues to make or to create more wealth, and they reduce their role as being the workers for those. But they must be the key drivers and the owners of the whole economic activity, so that we all have the equal share on our economy. Let me pause there and then I'll continue the rest of the speech. No, thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Lunga, what does it mean for you as a young person to be celebrating this day?
Well, in terms of celebrating Youth Day, I think the MEC has covered, or given us some historical grounding in terms of what is Youth Day historically. For me personally, what Youth Day represents is a rebellion of the youth against an oppressive regime seeking to impose limitations on how far the black youth in particular of South Africa could rise. And in that regard, I myself have strived on this particular day to better myself in any way possible, and throughout my life really considering my background to be who I am and where I want to go to in future. So that's what Youth Day means to me. It's the opportunity of the black child, the African child, to rise beyond any limitations. But I just want to touch on something that the MEC spoke about regarding the NDR, which is the National Democratic Revolution, and the contradictions he spoke of, one of them being, he just referred to it as class, but in the documents it speaks about class suicide. And this is where you are expected as a middle class person, a marketer, a marketing manager for Sun International, a medical doctor, I myself practicing professionally as a civil engineer, to have solidarity with the working class, to be able to give up some of the gains that we have made so we can better the rest of society. Now that is a very difficult thing to achieve, and that's why it's called a contradiction in the document. It's very hard to give up what you have made on your own to try to help other people, because you have to give up something for the betterment of society. Now, if you're working in a capitalist system, it's very hard to think that you can dismantle that system when you're working every day to succeed within that very same system. And that is the difficulty and the contradiction that we're going to struggle with. I think I'm going to stop there and pass on
Lunga,
to the next panelist.
you are a civil engineer. Yo, Kamo.
There's just so much structure in that. That was
That was deep.
I wasn't ready for such a serious conversation, really. I think we are so used to having airy-fairy conversations about these heartfelt issues that, when you get a perspective like that, you start realizing your audience, you start realizing the room that you're in. And I fully agree with you. As a young black female, I once actually tweeted this, that one day I was sitting in a boardroom and I looked around the table and I was the only female, I was the only black, and I was the only under 40. And everyone else around me is asking me to make big decisions and drive the strategy for the company. And I thought to myself, is there another black child out there that'll be given the same opportunity? I realized also what Youth Day means to me is that when you come from a land of opportunity, so I will say it in this way without it sounding pompous, but I would say that I come from privilege. I mean, you can even hear the way I speak my English,
Yeah.
Yeah, I twang. But I speak from privilege. And the other day, because I deal with a lot of young people that are always looking for an opportunity, to be in the public space, to share their opinions and share their views. And I was actually quite upset with myself because I spoke from privilege. And this young girl obviously asked me about public speaking, and she wanted to know something. And my answer to it was, just check out my YouTube channel. I'm giving out all of that. And when she went in deeper to say, okay, but where I'm from, I don't have internet. And I slapped myself to think, wow, there are actually real issues out there. And when you come from privilege, it's so easy to speak from privilege. And I love what you just said. It basically encompasses that as the youth, in order for us to actually go forward, in order for us to actually make a big impact in the society right now, is not to speak from privilege. Let's go to the ground and kind of put yourself in the same shoes, and allow people the opportunity to teach. So that's what I try to do in my free time. Is I really want to upskill, and I share that skill, because I don't think there were a lot of people in our time that were doing that for us. So the onus is on us to really, share the skills, and bring up a young child, a young boy, a young girl. I mean, it can be any gender, but we also need to allow ourselves that space. Open yourself up, be approachable, and don't speak from privilege. That for me was the epiphany.
Epiphany. Vandaag.
English.
Hopefully, I'm going to speak on behalf of those that speak simple English today. Since you guys have taken over, or at least I give the title after the title. So, Malachet, tell me something. You're a doctor, you're a medical doctor. It's not every day where you get to see a young black female medical doctor.
No, they actually.
No, but
It's actually changed quite a lot. There's actually quite a lot of black female doctors, unlike in the past where it was just white people or black males. But things are changing. And just to speak about what Youth Day means to me, is that the battle has been fought against the oppressive system. And currently, I believe that we've got a lot of opportunities. It's just that we like making quite a lot of excuses, thinking that the government or people owe us things. So I just think it's up to us as the youth to take the opportunity and stop basically depending on government to give us money for things. So even with now, like with medicine, for example, it's easier than it was in the past to actually get into medicine and specialize and improve yourself. Making excuses won't help. I mean, there's bursaries, there's NEFSAs and whatever. So if you want something in life, you have to have a positive mindset and believe that you can do it. And I think anything is possible for whoever believes in that.
Interesting. But to make things easier, this is what I've picked up the current situation with the youth. The youth is frustrated. One, and there's only one thing that is really frustrating them, is access to money, and meaning access to jobs. You understand? And currently, MEC in the province, we've seen the stats. We've got a high rating of unemployment, especially towards the youth. You've got a year in office whereby you are currently the MEC of Economic Development and this year, to put it out long. I'm going to keep on referring to it as economic development because today we're talking economics. And your observation in the first year, the first 365 days, you being in office, what have you picked up, the challenges that you have seen, before we open up calls and take questions from, because basically what I'm going to do later on, I'm going to allow a Zoom, people to come in through Zoom and pose questions to the panel. And I'm also going to take up questions on my WhatsApp. I'll give out my number now. But I want MEC to actually touch a bit on his observation from his office in terms of the youth and the unemployment rate. What's your take about that?
No, thank you very much. You're correct that Free State is one of those provinces with high unemployed rate. And our concern is that with all these developments around the COVID-19 pandemic, which to a great extent has affected our economy, we are anticipating the worst. While our economy was growing at about less than 1%.
Yeah.
It's so shocking to realize that we are now estimating that there will even be a contraction of between 5 and 6%, which is a serious cause for concern. And coming directly to your question, I must indicate that what we have always advocated for as the Youth League is confirmed, in that we have always called for a structural change to the economy of the Free State. A structural change in that there has not been much more new industries to make way as a substitution for the declining mining activity. Even our agriculture, we still remains a food basket of the country, of course, but we have not optimally utilized our agricultural capacity. And the structural changes which we have referred to, or that we have always propagated as the ANC Youth League, is that we cannot have a situation being accepted, which currently takes place, where there is no value add type of economic activities, not only in mining and in agri, in all other various type of activities. To make an example, the general type of goods, your what you would normally call FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods, they are still being imported, if you may use the words, into the province. Your toothpaste, your breakfast cereals, and so on. And we would know that the basic economic theory states that for an economy to grow, there has to be a production. And for the production, in the process of production taking place, an income is earned. That is why in my introductory remarks were saying, if you don't have black people playing into that space that responds to the basic economic questions, it means you're not going to make any strides. Now, the economy of the Free State, first and foremost, needs a total reconfiguration where we would have the value add. The economy of the Free State needs to be enhanced to also create new economic sectors. The economy of the Free State relies mostly on the primary produce, agri and mining, and the major one that is quietly rising in the absence of the other is the services, where most of the people of the Free State are now reliant on the public sector to employ them. That is very suicidal economically. You cannot have a situation where, because in all of these things, including on retail, in all of these things is that you have a major economic activity at the last end of the economic cycle, which is at the consumption stage. And that is very dangerous. Now, the reconfiguration would mean you would need to have our people, youth in particular, take place or play a role in the entire value chain. For an example, if you take the agriculture, we need to have our young people taking a role in farming activities. There is still a lot. There is, like I said, we have not optimized the agricultural space. It means we need to have more young people who are becoming farmers.
True.
I know most of young people are saying agriculture is not a sexy career, but because you have to go get there with your
They don't want to get
gumboots.
dirty.
Yeah, I don't want to get
Eh.
that. And that is necessary. To make an example, in my initial comments where I said the economy is predicted to contract, the paradox to it is that the agricultural sector is the only one that is predicted to grow even up to 8%, even more than the contraction itself.
Is it?
For obvious reasons, because you need agriculture to make a living. You live agriculture. For you to come here, you have to eat, and that food comes from agriculture. So if there is a sector that you cannot live without, that is why I was saying if the province reconfigure the economy to extend that consciously, we support agricultural activities, that could be one of the ways as the Free State would change. We need more young people in the farming space. But the most important thing, we need to have young people play a role in the value add. Because currently, the black farmers that are there in the space, they sell their produce very quick, very cheap. I mean, someone is packaging for them. Someone is transporting the food for them. Someone is doing all of those add-ons, quality checks and so on for them. But the most sad part of it, and that is why we spoke about the need to dismantle a monopoly capital in the country, is that they are still the price takers. They are so insignificant to a point that whatever they produce, someone on the other side tells them, I'll buy that bag of potatoes with this much, take it or leave it. They don't have the storages. Now, when you speak about the transformation and deracializing of the economy and inclusivity of the economy, we need to ensure that in each and every step of the economic activity of any commodity production, you have the progressive forces. But in this instance, our motive force of our revolution is the black people and Africans in particular. So we need to have our black people playing a role. I was just citing an example with agriculture. The same as the mining. You can't have only black people that they are reduced to be the mine workers.
True.
In those machineries, we have civil engineers now. The opportunities that I spoke about, that for us to say that we have made the strides in terms of economic growth, is that the economic growth must bring about opportunities. And the opportunities that are brought about, who stands to benefit out of them? And we have already defined this, that is black people, and that is why consciously, the first and foremost in 1994, we have to start with the education system to ensure that it's inclusive, so that we knew that in the process of economic growth or economic transformation, there will be a need for players, and we would need to have our black people being ready to grab those opportunities, because we can't say we want in a mine, just take Makalo because Makalo is black. Well, Makalo has no idea about engineering, but we now have engineers now. There's no more about a crisis of the skill. When coming to issues of the hospitality, we can't have the black people only still reduced to be waiters or work at the admin. We need to have those in the ownership patterns. Black people being majority owners of all of these things. I always used to say that in any economic activities, we need to define, first of all, the role of black people in terms of ownership, but in terms of managing those particular, it's very sad that you have many of our people, when the BEE was introduced, there were a number of schemes that were made for the black people to own, and they only exist on paper. Someone is not even aware that it is owning. And I think one of the major improvements was the introduction of the triple BEE scorecards, because it's no more about the ownership. It's all about the control, what the role of women is in that particular. All of those in totality, they would then determine the level of your compliance and so on. So I'm saying in terms of the economy of the Free State, we need to have a change and have a more value add through transformation of value chains. But the most important, like I said, is the creation of new sectors. Tourism has been rising. I think it was about 8 to 9% in our province. But unfortunately, equally is going to be affected by the COVID. But there are some sectors like the creative sectors, which we have not, I think, exploited or optimally used. Because if you look at other provinces, those are some of the anchor sectors, economic sectors for those provinces. It's one of those that we need to explore. The issues of e-commerce. The COVID-19 has presented or has demonstrated that if we were optimally using all of these innovations, we could still survive. Young people now, we have trained a number of them in IT, some are IT specialists. Why can't we have our own, say, Uber system? Why can't we have our own, what is this thing? Take what?
Take a lot.
Take a lot and all of those.
Yeah.
Because those things are done by humans, and our education system has produced them.
True.
But the biggest system is that we need to reconfigure and change how we do things. We need to move faster. We need to do things different. It cannot be easy, and we have always argued, and that is the view of the ANC Youth League in the Free States, that we need to have a fundamental change of our empowerment model. And by empowerment model, we're not only referring to the tenders, but we're referring to the entire empowerment of black people. It's very easy for you to get an order to deliver stationery. But it will be very difficult for you, I can bet with you there, with my last cent. It will be very difficult for you to set up a stationery plant where you'll get all the pulp and so on and produce paper and do.
Let me see, to
Yeah.
jump in there, when you
Thanks.
talk about space, I've actually acknowledged and I've seen the Free State on its own. We've got so much land that we do not have access to. So in terms of setting up plants and all that might be a bit tricky. On the other side, you've got factories that are being dilapidated, more that the youth have actually went to the department or to FDC to actually apply for, and they struggle to get them. I know I was one of them who once went to our municipality whereby I wanted to access a factory, and the process in acquiring such resources that are readily available, it's a nightmare, to be honest. And of which, now if you can look at the frustration of the youth, it's not nice to see a young man holding an envelope brown, knocking from office to office, looking for opportunities. And when they get into that office, this stumbling block in front of them. They take the proposal, will call you, and nothing happens. So when you mention issues of opportunities for youth, we all hear, and I was reading some of the comments where they were saying, there are opportunities for us, but we've got stumbling blocks in terms of the public sector, in terms of the private sector also. Because I know I'm not going to shoot government only. I'm also going to shoot the public sector, because I want to touch on issues of transformation also, because that also plays a role. You touched on it. Or we as black people, we need the opportunities to actually jump into that. But let me see, I'm going to pause you, Hanyane. I want to come to Lunga, which is your sector. It's one of the most trickiest sector, and I don't know if you can touch a bit more on transformation on that side. Lunga, I'm going to pose a simple question that the ANC Youth League always poses. Are you economically free?
That's economic freedom. That's a matter of relativity. How do you see yourself? Let me put it very simply. Somebody with 50 million rand, but with a 5 million rand a month lifestyle, does not feel economically free. You know what I'm saying? Somebody with $1 million rand who lives on 10,000 rand a month feels very free. That person can just put that money in an interest-bearing account and live off that. So it depends on what type of lifestyle you want to live.
Well, that question was posed for you.
To me, it's something I'm working on. I'm working full-time right now. I'm employed. Could I quit my job and do whatever I want? I have a risk of a 50-50 failure versus success rate right now. It's improved from 5 years ago where I had 100% chance of failure. You know, so am I economically free? Yes, I have my skills. Nobody can take those away. And even if I do fail, I'm able to get myself back up again. So that's, in terms of economic freedom, that's what I have to say on that. But what I will say is the problem what we have, let's talk in the province in general, because this is for the Free State. Let's not talk national politics or the national economy.
Thank you.
All right. I was looking at this latest revenue collection data, and 40% of our tax collection comes from Gauteng. The Free State, over the 2019-2020 financial year, only contributed 3% of that income tax. That tells you the level of economic activity that's happening in this province. It's negligible. If the Free State disappeared tomorrow, South Africa would not miss it. Okay, so what that tells you is you need very different type of thinking for what you want to do here. Is the ANC, our government likes to look at the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party model, and see what we can look at their success and say, what can we take from that? Well, one success that the CCP tried is they looked at Singapore, started by Chinese man Lee Kuan Yew, and said, that seems to be working out pretty well. You've really improved the lives of your people. We have a population of 1 billion, so we can do it on a mass rollout. But we're going to start this little special economic zone in Shanghai and make it a total free market system. Stock market exchange can go there, and we'll see if we can rival Hong Kong, which was basically a British colony. And the lease is going to expire within the next 5 years. That's why you've seen the riots there. People don't want to become part of China. But still, you have Shanghai. It's there. It's an special economic zone. Tax incentives for corporations to operate. That's what we need to do in the Free State. We need to set up and say the Free State is a special economic zone. If you operate here, government will give you tax incentives to employ people. You will not pay any income tax on what you produce here. Okay, now that obviously will drive capital here, but what it also do, you'll just charge sale tax. You will pay tax on whatever it is that you sell. You have to look on some sort of system of incentivizing people to bring their capital to this province. What you cannot do is try to compete with Gauteng and the Western Cape. People will not leave.
But why not? We can compete.
No, you don't have to. That's the thing. They already have their system set up. Texas does not try to compete with New York. People love living in New York and the US.
But don't you think that we can turn the Free State into New York or Washington?
You don't have to. What you can do is turn it into a Texas, which is a farming capital, which is what we are in the Free State, which is the farming capital in the USA. But they have, let me finish my point. They pay no federal tax there.
I understand that. But some of us...
And they have Dallas, and that's a big city. It's just as lovely a city to live as New York. It doesn't have to be that.
But here's the current situation that's happening in South Africa. The young people, they love wearing their Gucci's and Louis Vuittons, and they don't want to get themselves dirty.
That's consumption culture.
You see?
This is what you was talking about. People, most of the money is going at the end of the production process. Everybody's consuming, but nobody's being productive.
You must remember, now I'm saying, I'm going to speak on behalf of those people.
Yeah.
You understand? So hence I'm saying to you, if I have my Louis Vuitton and my Gucci shoes and I don't want to get them dirty and I want to live a lifestyle, New York, then what?
Move to New York.
If you can afford it.
Move to New York.
Yeah.
Because clearly you're not the target market.
I get to wear a suit, a tie day to day, but I also have work on construction sites. I get myself dirty on more days than I am. I'm not dressed like this every day.
But Lunga,
I work with construction workers. I work with the lowest paid people in this country.
it goes for my whole panel. Ne? Here's the situation. We've noticed that young entrepreneurs or young people in business, the minute they enter into business, all they're looking for is, I want to live a good life. I want to live in the north. I want to make so much money. And what we don't, the part area for sang the most is that most of their income, the minute it's hand to mouth. So what are the chances that we can build a sustainable economic situation if we cannot sustain ourselves? The situation is a hand to mouth.
Let me tell you something about that. the problem we have in South Africa is that we're backing the wrong entrepreneurs. And that's a systematic thing, whereas the person who is least able to find employment in this country is the one who's forced into entrepreneurship. So you take him, so to say, but your least skilled, least talented person, and you expect him to run a business. Now, the problem we have in South Africa is people like me, who are highly qualified, highly skilled, math background, science background, even the guys who become accountants, those people have options. Somebody paying you R1 million a year, it's hard to just leave that job and decide, hey, I want to start up a business.
Okay, I'm going to take
So you need to incentivize your most skilled individuals to go into entrepreneurship. And those are the people who are best suited to be running these corporations.
Yeah, Lungane. I'm going to take a break right now. We're having a problem with the Zoom situation. I want them to sort it out. But when we come back, I'm going to jump in. We're going to continue where we left it off. So without wasting any time, ad break. Welcome. The surgical, wow, behind the scene. The topic is getting heated and we're enjoying what we're doing right now. We're enjoying the cup of soup and thank you very much for enjoying my soup. It's my own recipe. I'm a chef by profession. So very soon, Moyo, I'll be looking for a job as a chef. But without wasting any time, ladies and gentlemen, you can send your questions on our WhatsApp line on 061 433 7884. Or you can post them, you can comment on the Free State Online and also on the ANC Youth League page with your questions and we'll take it from there. But without wasting any time, Mo,
Yes.
I'm coming to you. You get, in the past, is it 8 years now that we've been working together? I've seen people coming to you, to your office with young people, with proposals and them actually having these beautiful ideas and of which some they cannot be implemented and they don't understand why. So I want you from a corporate side to explain your criterias for opportunities for young ones.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Criteria. If we speak in corporate, obviously everything that corporate does is strategically driven.
Yeah.
So we've got a 5-year strategy plan in how we want to shape and basically direct where the corporate is going. And there are different elements to that. There's obviously, we always look at the economic development side of it. I don't know if we're doing it to score points, but it is one of those elements that need to be considered. So economic development is there, and then we obviously... basically play a role in those different gaps. Because obviously, with any business, you want to leverage anything to help support the bottom line, because at the end of the day, it's about the bottom line. So then I would take your proposal and I would decline it because it's not in line with what we're looking for. So a lot of people kind of misinterpret that. Is it because Lunga dresses better? Is it because Lunga speaks better English? It's got nothing to do with that. It stems a lot from whether the association can be fruitful for both of us. It doesn't help me as a corporate to only empower you to make you great if that's going to bring about a downfall for myself. So a lot of it speaks to that. So the brand association needs to be mutual. What I really love about the young people in the Free State specifically, and I get a lot of proposals from them, and I try my level best to really accept the proposal and bring about the ideas, is I don't just consult as my own. So I bring along the whole team and we have a sit down with you. So we want to understand your vision. Like, where do you want to go with this concept? And in most cases, if we decline it, I would I would usually actually refer you to someone that can help you. So we need those kind of people in corporate as well. In the past, we always had people in corporate that would listen to idea and say, we'll call you back, and never call you back, or decline via an email. So we as Windmill Casino have really added that human touch to it. Let's add a bit of guidance to it, because I can only help you get better, and I can only explain to you why. Main criteria is strategy. It has to be your business proposal, whether it's an event. An event is not just an event, because events are very expensive. But if you have a clear goal and strategy as to what you want to achieve through that event, whether it's economic development, whether it's helping to, push up tourism. So if you want to bring in an element of tourism to showcase, the beautiful sites that we have in the city, those kind of things, those kind of elements need to tie back into the event, because an event is not just an event. I'll make an example with the stuff that you do. For instance, your events encompass that whole tourism aspect, that lifestyle aspect, to make the Free State greater. Because at the end of the day, as a hospitality industry, we want a lot of people that are coming into the Free State to come and stay with us, to have a great experience with us as Sun International in Bloemfontein. So I would obviously partner up with you, because you are bringing about an opportunity for me to partner, and I can see where I can leverage off. It's not because there's any personal agenda or anything like that, but everything is driven by strategy.
True.
Everything is driven by association as well. And I mean, if you can bring in other partners, it's just a greater opportunity to make the province better. And that's basically part of the mission of Sun International, that in every area that we are located, the aim is to really support communities, and not just as a tick of the box exercise, like I've mentioned, but it has to be really thoughtful, and it has to be sustainable. So we do a lot of projects. We do economic development projects where we actually do interest-free loans for small businesses. So you can come through with a concept idea and say, I want to own a print shop, for instance, but I am lacking capital to fund me to buy the equipment. And we can actually give you equipment for interest-free loan that you obviously have to pay back within 5 years, but without interest. So you just pay back the loan amount. So those are the kind of opportunities that we have. It's not to say, because we're corporate, we'll never give you a job. There are opportunities. You just need to be clear in your strategy and your goal. You need to have a goal. The corporate speaks goals and strategies and timelines.
I totally forgot about that part where I can take out the loan.
It has to be sustainable, and it has to be in line with what we do as well. So please.
I totally forgot.
Yeah.
Malakhet, the medical field in the province, look, I'm going to put a knife to it. It's white dominated. I know 2 or 3 black-owned companies that are actually trying to make their way within the medical field, but they've got stumbling blocks. What have you observed from your field in terms of opportunities for young black people in the medical field before we find the cure for corona?
Okay. For me, I currently I work at a public hospital, like Universitas in Belinomi.
Okay.
I'm currently busy with my studies, the specialty I've just recently completed, actually. So in terms of work in the public sector and in private, in the public sector, like I said, to get into medicine, it's not such a stumbling block as before. because they try to take equal amounts of black people versus whites. So in that way, they have transformed quite a lot in terms of admission into medical school. And when you have completed your studies, you know that it's internship and then community service. And after that, you can either decide to work in a public hospital or you can open your own practice, your own private practice as a GP. And with regards to that, I guess your only stumbling block would probably be to get a loan. But most of the time, like a bank can fund you to start your own private practice as a general practitioner. So to work in a private hospital, like maybe Mediclinic or Busamed, or I don't think it's that difficult because most of the I know the manager in Mediclinic is in Netcare is a black person, and they are willing to give you offices, like offices to start your own practice as a specialist in a private hospital.
Can I jump in? I'm gonna jump in on the part where you have to actually establish your own practice. When you say you can go to a bank and access a
for
loan.
capital, like
for capital.
for capital in terms of if you want to start, because you're gonna need
Practice.
equipment,
And all
you're gonna
that.
need an examination bed.
But here's my question: do you have the guarantees that the bank will seek to get access to that capital? Because the reason why I'm saying that, when you apply for a business loan, they always ask you for guarantees, of which most young black people, they don't have.
Guarantee that you'll pay it back.
Yeah. In a form of security. For example, if you're going to apply for a loan and you have a house, you can put up your house as a guaranteed
Security, yeah.
security. So now, here I am, I'm a young black entrepreneur. Ke tswela ko kasi ka mo sports, ne? I've got this great idea to establish a printing house. Or let me just say, I just graduated as a medical doctor. And I want to practice. And I want to buy equipment, and I need plus minus about 700,000. And I approach a bank and I say, here's my business plan. This is how I'm going to pay it. Potential clients, I'm going to claim from medical aid, everything. We know how doctors make their money.
Yes.
And then that question, what guarantee do you have? Do you have that particular guarantee to actually secure that type of a loan?
You know, for doctors, because they already know, like when you started a practice, in a way, it's sort of like guaranteed. It's you won't find like someone really struggling, because people will always need medical care. They will always need medical care. I've never actually seen a practice where you struggle to get to get capital. So majority of the time, you will get capital to actually start your own practice.
Is it? So
Yeah.
basically, maybe it will differ according to the sectors, if I may put it that way.
I think it differs, but for medical doctors, I don't think it's much of a battle, because people are always willing to actually give capital, because they know that, I mean, healthcare, people seek healthcare, so
Yeah.
there's...
Askis,
In-
look,
If I can interject here.
switch on your mic. Yeah. Lunga is going to interject. Battery? Tsapo?
If I can interject here, for professionals seeking finance, the ball game is very different to the average person who wants to set up a manufacturing plant, where they have to put up security or some sort of capital, to put some skin in the game. If you're a professional, your earning ability is your skin in the game. So even if that medical practice never works out, they know you can always be employable at a hospital and pay back that loan.
Oh,
Yes.
so that's the security.
That's the security. Your earning ability, your education is your security.
Sharp. Let me see. Now it brings me to something that I love the most. Lunga just mentioned Patiahore, in terms of young professionals, there's that silent security. I'm going to put it like silent because it's never unspoken. The challenges that the youth currently are facing in terms of access to funding, is that we are being told to go, we need to go to Bo NYDA, Bo SIDA, Bo Man to access that funding. But the problem is that once the process is that, one, the turnaround time, it takes too long, like almost 2 to 3 years. Two, and then you're being seeked. That security selling seek. And then you are being told to go to another entity, which is Kula, to go and get security. And when you get to Kula, Kula asks you questions, still they want security. So, in terms of access to finance, in terms of capital for the entrepreneurs, ke batla go e baya mara. Access to finance. What have you observed? What can you say about that? Because I have a problem with the turnaround time, one, and the security part.
Okay, no, thanks. I think you're correct. There's a problem on getting the financial guarantees, or at least the access to the very finance. In my last input when I was speaking, one of the things that I've said is that the ANCYL Youth League has always said we need to do things differently, because the fact that it is much easier for professionals because of the lower risk relative to other young people does not necessarily mean that it is that easy for them. Now, the Youth League has always said, and even if you check on the resolutions of the African National Congress, such were affirmed even in Nasrec. The ANCYL Youth League said, we need to, one, on the very NYDA that has been made specifically for young people, it needs to be financed sufficiently, because it is not funded well, number one. But most importantly, there has to be a total change on how the developmental finance institutions approaches business in general. For the sake of less controversy, I will not mention a name, but one of the big developmental finance institutions, their money is even more expensive than when you go to commercial banks. And we have always argued that don't call it a developmental finance institution. It's one of the entities supposed to. In fact, the requirements are very difficult. So the view of the Youth League is that I think the observation is correct, and your observation is correct. We need to have a specialized dispensation which will deal with the needs not only of young people but of blacks and Africans in particular, when they have to enter the value-adding space. Like I said, it's very difficult to get manufacturing activity in South Africa. The requirements, the this and that and that. So the country has not moved to a point where it says, we see all of you here, you are all in the commercial space, but this one specifically is a black person who never had opportunities. Let's have some a dispensation that will ensure that the person is there. By the way, it is not only the finance that is a problem. The entire business support, and I must thank on behalf of the Youth League, I must thank the ANC in this instance for this responsibility, because one of these ideals that the Youth League has always spoken about are now being able to be changed. Because, for an example, in the Department of this year, starting in this financial year, we will no more have a support being a once-off or a periodical. We have totally reconfigured the business support. Because you'd remember, a business is not only reliant on finance.
True.
You've got combination of other various factors, business support, and all of those various skills. If one of them lacks, the business will collapse. So we're saying let's have a range of those support service, which we can then offer to a business, not only over 2 months, 3 months, but let's do it at least over 2 to 3 year period. Because the statistics have shown a good number or a substantial number of new businesses, they don't see the light after 2 or 3 years. It means we register businesses that will collapse.
True.
But reality again tells us that people go to business. It's not everyone who's an entrepreneur. They went there as one of the revenue streams. But you can't blame them, because everyone has the needs that he or she must eat at the end of the day. So when they take initiatives to say, I can't go look for a job, let me try and creating a job. We believe that is a responsibility of a democratic government to assist that particular person, because after all, not everyone who will be employed. And part of what we are now implementing is that one of the difficulties is your basic overheads. We normally criticize our fellow brothers and sisters or the entrepreneurs, they run office from the boot of the car, but can the person afford an office space while he or she has not received an order? Can a person afford to have at least a reception? So we're saying the basic overheads that relates to the basics of the business, the government provide that support. And I think that's what this tier is now going to implement from the 1st of July. We'll pay for your books. If Lunga is an engineer and he only has little money to do his job, maybe he can only afford his buggy to go to the sites, but can't afford to have an accountant, can't afford to have a lawyer, which ultimately will afford his ability to earn, because if he's not doing his books properly, does not file returns, he runs a risk of not being compliant, and that can afford his next order. So we're saying, let people focus on that which they will do best, invest their little resources on what is necessary for their business, and government plays its role. So in terms of the new reconfigured business support, we then say we'll pay the money for the accountant, for the lawyers, for someone who will file his returns and so on, at least till that particular period of time that he can be self-sufficient. So those are the things that the Youth League have always said, that try and work with the small guys sustainably. But again, the issue of reconfiguration, like I've spoken about, is that there has to be a special dispensation for the black people when coming to the business. But lastly, I think it's high time that this is the question that we normally challenge various professions with, that the ability of black professionals to support each other. Because when you have one young doctor who has established a practice, you find most of the time he or she will not mostly use the services of another fellow black accountant.
That is true.
You will not use the services of now. In response to it, because we understand as the Youth League that society cannot lead itself. Someone else must lead society, and as the leader of young people, as the ANC Youth League, our responsibility is to ensure that our militants finds expression through generations of thoughts and ideas. And part of the ideas which we have sponsors to the ANC government was that let the ANC government takes a lead in that, because you can't take it as if it's given that everyone is conscious enough to play a particular role that is expected. So part of the business support I'm referring to, one of the conditions is that if you are under that particular support, the services that are rendered to you must be from the other fellow young SMME who would sufficiently qualified. If you are going to need a logistics facility like a truck and so on, first and foremost, it must come from the black owner. So yeah. we are playing a role of coordinating, first and foremost, the support amongst the black people and those that were marginalized. Because it's through that conscience that at least they will be able to de-racialize the economy. Because remember our biggest, like I said, our biggest struggle, we do not just want to have an economy which is booming, where you'll have new entrants, everyone making money and go, but which is not to the benefit of our people.
True.
We need to dismantle monopolies, and the South African economy in its own nature, it is monopolized. Go to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Your media is concentrated in Stellenbosch.
True.
And so are other industries. Your financial sector is controlled from Stellenbosch. Now, we cannot say that we are truly liberated up until we have black people being part of this player. So the role of the Youth League is conscientize society, and we continue at any given platform to start raising this consciousness that our young people needs to be alive to that. Because lastly, I think you've touched on that particular point about young people who are just impatient. With the first order, he wants to live a lavish lifestyle.
That's the problem.
It is the responsibility of the Youth League that it has taken to continue conscientize the society as and when we engage with young people that there needs to be aware about the culture of a capitalist system. The capitalist system has created a conducive environment for what we call a conspicuous consumption, where unfortunately we found as the black young professionals, we found to be the ones that are falling victims to. Where at your last year at school, you are just thinking about that sleek car that you want to drive. Now, a person who has just been at a job or as a professional within five months of his or her employment with, if you may term it, sufficient salary to survive, that person is already being indebted. And it becomes very difficult for that person to get out of that. He doesn't own the car, he doesn't own the house. The whole of his money goes to debts. And the biggest beneficiary of that is the financial institutions which are not transformed. So we need to inculcate, and we continue doing so as a Youth League, that our young people must appreciate how difficult it is to get this freedom. And one of the key pillars is that you will never be free economically once you live on a debt.
True.
You rather take that money, if there has to be a debt, let it be a debt that creates value out of it. Rather have a business loan for a business that will then create money so that that particular sleek car that you want, you don't drive it on credit, but you are able to generate sufficient money. So those are the things that when we celebrate these days, as the Youth League, we feel that because we now have the freedom, we need to ensure that at least we protect that which we have achieved. Because it makes no point that we have achieved to have these high numbers of black middle class because of opportunities we've created by education, by business, and so on. But the net effect, you actually realize that we have created more burden to the economy because all of those people are now dependent on the untransformed financial systems to transform them. So it's one of those issues that we believe that we have to change so that our people know that in any economic system, for you to eat or for you to consume anything, you need to work hard and generate money for it, not on a debt. Thank you.
Oh, Chair. Okay, Chair and my panel, I want to take a couple of questions, ne? Because I see that my team on Zoom is already ready. So I'm going to take a little short break. When we come back, we're going to jump into Zoom, and I'm going to pose a couple of comments that are coming through. But yeah, and then we can take it from there. So without wasting any time, can I pay my bills, please? Yeah, I'm back with a bang. Tupac once said, I still see no changes. And I wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? Those are questions that the youth are actually asking themselves. Because right now, we are seeing a high rating of depression because of unemployment, because of emotional issues. We're seeing a high rating of like less of hope. Like the youth doesn't have hope anymore. And I want us from this panel to actually start to build that hope, to bring back that hope to the youth. But going forward, we'll see. I'm going to take one question. I think, let me see, this one is to you. It's from, he didn't write his name. Oh, Jonito. Jonito is in Botterville. Ne? And Jonito, he calls himself Jonito on WhatsApp, but his name is actually Motseki from Botterville. He says his question to the panel is that, why is it that every provincial department has a youth desk where economic opportunities are presented to that particular desk or department for discussion? And question number 2, why is our health department quiet about procurement for young people? So, let me see. Youth desk, each and every single department. Because according to Motseki, it's a struggle for the youth to actually have access to education. Because if you can look into our provincial structure, we only got one youth office. Each department doesn't have a youth office. What's your take about that?
To be precise, I can confidently say in majority of the departments, there are officials designated to coordinate the work of youth. I know in this tier there is one, and all other various departments. It has been the call of the Youth League, it was a concern of the Youth League from the beginning that you would need to have youth coordinators, and such has been taking place. It may be 1 or 2 departments which do not have the youth coordinators, but as far as I know, perhaps it's the issue of ensuring that they are known.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm going to touch on the youth in parliament later on because, yeah, that's another topic for another day. But I want to welcome our friends on Zoom, as you can see them on the screen. We've got Tato Hati there and the other guys, I didn't get their names, but if you guys can open up the mic so that they can introduce themselves one by one. They mustn't take too long because I'm left with a couple of minutes now and I still want to continue with this. So, my friends, Tato Hati. Unmute Tato Hati. Technology, 4th Industrial Revolution. Tato Hati had my headset. Or delayed. So, in this situation, this is what happens. You will be talking to a person in another. My friends,
I don't know who got to go.
I don't know who Okay. Mamela, hey. Quick one. If you have a question for the panel, please pose it. Okay. While we sort. Okay. While we sort. Tata zinza beika kamera. Tato Haj. Okay. Yeah. Kolo. We're going to move over to Kulufel. Welcome, Kolo. Okay. While we're busy sorting out the audio issue.
I think you should mute the.
Okay. It's fourth industrial.
Hello.
They're busy sorting out the technical issues. MEC. No. Let me not go to MEC. Let me come to Lunga. Lunga, there was one gentleman who mentioned issue. Let me confirm that person quickly. TP.
How do you the voice
TP
is
is a civil engineer
not
also. And young professionals are sitting as employees in offices because they want to secure living and survival. I'm also a civil engineer by profession, like you, Mr. Lunga, as he said about the 50-50 chances of a risk. And a lot of us feel the same way. The very same people our country needs to create employment, but the red tapes, the policies don't allow young professionals to contribute in terms of creation of wealth and employment and economic activities. So there's red tapes. What he's mentioning is quite serious because I've seen with corporate that they'll put these little red tapes, these silent red tapes, to block off young black professionals. Your take?
My take. Let's talk about red tape in the civil engineering profession. It's there for a reason. You provide infrastructure that is used by the public. So
Okay.
you can't just let anybody get in and provide that infrastructure. There's issues of health and safety, we can't just let anybody build a building. So they have to be qualified, they have to be registered professionally through the engineering council, they must prove their credentials. Now in terms of red tape of starting your own business, it's the same as anybody else. It's not that hard to go to the CIPC. It's less than 24 hours to start your own business.
But
In terms of red tape of getting tenders, that's what you mean. You don't mean starting a business. You mean there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through for as a civil engineering professional if you wish to practice professionally.
okay.
That you must jump through. You have to have extra registration. You must have professional indemnity insurance. You are limited on the types of jobs you can take on because you need that liability insurance. If something goes wrong, you need to have insurance of 5 million rand on your bridge or whatever infrastructure you're building. Now, if you want to become a civil engineering contractor, the red tape is much lower, but the capital requirements also go up. Now you have to either hire or buy a plant, you have to hire more people. So it depends on which sector you want to play. Do you want to be a professional practicing as a consultant, or do you want to be in the actual infrastructure delivery sector where you actually are a contractor?
But do you think that young black youth members out there, do they have understanding in terms of the sector itself?
No. Most people don't have an understanding in the sector. There's a reason why we have universities and we have technicons. The people who go to universities are civil engineers. The people who go to technicon are not civil engineers. They're technicians and technologists.
Aha.
Now this sector, these guys people who get their BTECs. I have a BSc. I went to University of Cape Town.
Okay.
I'm an engineer. Now, the apartheid
Cheers up,
government
boy.
created technicons. The apartheid government created technicons for a very specific reason. They understood that the poor Afrikaner was never going to be able to meet the requirements of getting into a VETS, getting into a UCT, while they were still building Stellenbosch
Okay.
for their kids with lower entry requirements in the Northwest University. Okay, they built these institutions like the Central Tech Office when it was called back
Yeah,
then.
CUT.
What is it in Pretoria? TUT,
TUT.
Tshwane University, Pretoria Tech at the time, Valtech and those places. These were for the simple reason of most guys who are technicians deliver day-to-day infrastructure. You actually don't need me to design a road. We've designed enough roads that there's a blueprint, you can just take it. Anybody who has technical training can do that over and over again. And that's a type of function that can be run by a government in public works. That's why it used to be called public works, roads and transport. And these people who are technicians should be working for government. They should not be in business at all.
Che, Udwin.
Okay? The people who should be in business in the engineering field are your thinkers. They're people who go to university, who deliver new types of infrastructure. Those are the only tenders that should be going out for a bridge, which there's no two bridges that are alike. I don't need a tender for a road. This can be a government function purely.
That can create employment.
The only reason all these consultants, civil engineering consultancies exist is because white people left after 94 and said, we're going to take our skills out of the public sector and we're going to set up our own consultancies and we're going to charge the government to do work that we used to do within government.
So basically, they're charging the government to think on their behalf.
Yes. It's no different to if doctors said, we no longer want to work for the public sector, we're going to run private practices.
Anyone wants to add on that before I say something?
Yeah, no, let me comment from the angle that, you know, when we were in my introductory remarks, when we were saying at the center of improving the lives of the people is the economy. Interrelated to it is that the ANC government has always understood that you need a developmental state to lead the process of economic transformation. And part of it is to have a capable developmental state to ensure that the processes also of change and social transformation, they are guided. I'm raising that to say what Lunga is saying is also one of the challenges which were confronted by the ANC government in '94 of building a skillful workforce. It is not a coincidence that we have found that in the early 2000s, that there has to be a reconfiguration of higher education to address exactly that, so that you do not have only certain level. So you shouldn't have two systems of public or of tertiary education that has been offered. Because like you're saying, in the past, you had your UCTs, you had your VETs, which were outside the reach of majority of our black people, and the perception of the labor market or of the private sector that when you come from this institution, it means there's a perception of the inferior quality of the education or the skill that you possess. But I think with time, the issues that he has raised, there has been a substantial change in that, because where I'm seated, I can make an example that some of the graduates of CUT here in the province of the Free State, if you were to compare them with some of the other, or maybe let's compare issues in the province with the University of the Free State, in terms of the vocational knowledge, the two could not match. What has always been good in terms of the some of universities of technology was the practical parts that they could do, which those that are in conventional universities were not exposed to, which arguably one would ask that, isn't that a good thing that you produce someone who could, moving out immediately out of the institution of higher learning, can go and do the work, So, but I think the whole context of the higher education, the politics behind is not necessarily about which is the better institution, which is not. The higher education system of a country has to play a role and support a developmental program of a country. But by that I mean, when you have a situation now where there is an outcry of service delivery, majority of local government institutions, your municipalities, having shortage of the critical skills, we rely on higher education. And to me, and I think that has been the view of the ANC government, to create an environment where it's immaterial whether you come from the university or you come from the technical, but you need to have a higher education system. It's all well and good that the former technicals were easily accessible. It's all well and good, but the important part is that you need to have higher education system which then responds to that need of the skill of majority of municipalities in producing necessary electrical engineers, structural engineers, and all those type of in the engineering field. So how we view higher education as the ANC Youth League is that it exists for the sake of supporting the developmental agenda of the state. And the role of the young people in there, we need to have young people who are conscious enough that they appreciate that before they become students, they are members of society. So someone goes to the university, not that he wants to qualify so that he can have better income, but have the sense that I need to go back and make a change in the community from which I come from. It is so nice and quite fulfilling personally, where you live, and after 4 or 5 years when you come back, you can resolve a problem. You know, when you are a doctor, surely the neighbors, when you went home, well, I don't know where to stay, but in the event you still stay in the township or you visit there, someone from next door come and tell you that the child is sick, and it's so fulfilling that at least. So that is a type of the education system. The transformation of our education was not only about creating access, but it's also to deal with the mindset of the graduates, because we want professionals that are patriotic to our society. Not that because they have also been partly funded by the taxes, but that is entire ideal of creating a national democratic society, which the 1976 generation has fought for, that we need to have the type of quality education which can then assist us, because we can't be struggling that you can't build roads while you've got the education system. You can't struggle that you can't heal people while you've got higher education. So higher education is one of those necessary tools in the developmental agenda. Thank you.
Chair, yeah, I'm gonna ask you guys not to take too long, because I wanna take as many questions as possible, because they're starting to come in. Lunga, most of my people don't agree with you, to be honest.
I'm sorry, they are welcome to. And
He just grabs the mic, he's like, bring it.
they're welcome to. And the MEC is right. It's not that if you're coming from a Technicon or University of Technology, it's a lesser qualification. Those two people just do different things.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the people I work with are mostly from CUT. The guys I hire. I hire people. I work as a manager for an office.
Okay.
Okay. I hire people on a regular basis, and I hire mostly from the Central University of Technology, and those are good technicians and engineers. So I respect their capabilities, and he's right. When I got out of university, I was useless to my company. They knew they were going to have to spend at least a year training me. The guy who gets out from Technicon is ready to go. And that's what I mean. These people do different things.
Because I was coming to that point to say, the guys from a technical side, they are more equipped than the guys from a university side. I remember when I went to varsity, this is what I said. I have UOFs, I have CUT. And I chose CUT based on the fact that I wanted the practical side. I didn't want, look, I'm not a book nerd. More, you know what I'm talking about. So, MEC.
I'm from university.
Another question that is coming to the most, this one is quite interesting. Tenderpreneurs. We've got a phone call. Then this step, man. Tenderpreneurs, quick one. In short, most black people, youngsters, when they get into business, the only thing that they focus on, it's tenders. And it's a common practice and it's a common knowledge that for you to have access to a tender, you need to be friends either with the MEC, either with the HOD, or either with the head of supply chain. The Youth League itself, there are members of the Youth League that have been in a situation whereby they control tenders for certain people, and these people have to have certain privileges for the Youth League members. What's your take on that situation whereby I need to know somebody in the Youth League who can get me to you in order for me to get a tender? Celebration amakuf. What's your take? Because that's a common problem. Everybody who's going into business, they want to get a tender. But it's the process itself. You need to know somebody. I know in business you have to know somebody. But the Youth League, And
the
please
sake
don't
of your
take too
time,
long.
for the sake of your time, I must actually say, one, nothing wrong with the tenders.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing wrong with the tenders. By the way, the tenders are the only avenue which is available for the young people or anyone, or blacks, Africans in particular, who venture into a business. Because under normal circumstances, the private sector will not make those opportunities available. That's fact number one. So the tendering system has provided another avenue where they could participate at least. But I would say, two, the Youth League will not support any favoritism. At no point. It always believes that people must be given opportunities on merits or on the basis of the framework set, like it is legislators that be biased to women, be biased to young people, be biased to the disability. But my last conclusion is that we do not want our people to rely on tenders. We understand that situation, the structure of the economy and the empowerment model has left only that small room available for them, which are the tenders. We still endeavor and we still continue to advocate for a situation where our people must be more concentrating on the value activities, like in the manufacturing of the goods and services, being the industrialist, vis-a-vis those that are just on the tenders to buy and sell. They must be the producers, because if we can create and open that door, you will hear that there will not even be people who are worried about whether do I get a tender to this, because they would have anyway made actually the bigger part. They will take the lion's share of the value derived from those commodity value chains.
But the problem, Chair, is that in the tendering system, when they go to the private sector, to get into the database of the private sector, it's the most difficult process ever. Hence, they run to the government for the easiest tenders to get. And more, which brings me back to you. Is there any transformation when it comes to the procurement side from a corporate, especially when it comes to the black business? The reason why I'm saying that, I had a fight with one of the banks whereby I was saying to them, what would it take for me to be on your database system so I can supply you with the same printing that you are procuring from Gauteng?
So like any other business, corporate is heavily directed by compliance. At the end of the day, your procurement is under compliance, and you have to follow the compliance protocols. So I'll speak for my own entity. I can't speak for the rest. But with us, there's a heavy vetting that goes into it, and it's heavily implemented in terms of sourcing 3 quotes, just as much as how the government operates, because we have to be compliant. We have audits on a quarterly basis to check that we are following that procedure. So it's easy actually to join on as a vendor on our supply system. Everything is done online. So I guess that's the only disadvantage if obviously Joe's salon does not have access to that. But we also give access to you. We assist you in registering your business on our database. And what's nice about database for Sun International, for instance, it is for all the Sun Internationals throughout the country. So it's not limited to only the Free State. But obviously, predominantly, if you're from Bloemfontein, we are actually forced, or we are expected to source locally first before we start looking outside. And we first look at compliance. So a lot of the corporates right now, a lot of the private sector right now is forced, for lack of a better word, to actually comply with protocols in terms of transformation when it comes to supply chain and procurement. Long are gone the days where you could just call up your friend to come in and supply goods and services to your business. You actually, because we get audited, you have to follow the protocols.
Okay. I'm going to take a call, if it's ready, my technical crew, for the panel. Good afternoon, Dad. Hello? Call.
Hello.
Shapora ngwanam.
Hello.
Le kae mami?
Dumela MC.
Dumela.
O bua le Khulufelo Motsamai mona Bloemfontein. Nna MEC potso ya ka e nngwe fela ke batla ho botsa mabapi le thuso ya lona ya agriculture, youth in agriculture. I've been in agriculture for a very long time now. Ke rana company e bitswang Tjhebelopele Institute of Agriculture. So as youth mo Free State, we've been running around re kopa thuso mona mafapeng mona. Mind you, this business re rana from capacity ya diphokoto tsa rona. We've never received any help from lefapha mona Free State. So hangata ha o ntse o tsamaya o ya mafapeng o kopa thuso ba tla o jwetsa gore re qadile e le cooperative ba tla o jwetsa e tlamehile be company pele before re ka le thusa ebe ya ba re turn into a company. After seno ba company ba tla o jwetsa ha lena tjhelete e
Kholo-
kana ka bankeng ya lona. So ntho e le horeng ke batla ho e utlwisisa ko nna le thusa jwang youth ye le hore in business, especially agriculture, because we've seen gore in the Free State there's not a lot of people, especially young people, they're in agriculture. And since they're more businessing in a lot of young people, they don't have interest in agriculture because it's not something mo sona. So what we are trying to do rona as a company at Tjhebelopele, to introduce bana, especially black people, black young people into agriculture, ba be more involved and re kgone ho ba aga when coming to agriculture. But ntse re sokola ho tloha 2013. So re rana this company and no e santsane e le sekolo ha e se le company fela. Ke college ya agriculture, but ha re soka re thola any help from anyone. And ha re batla ho ba charity case, we're not looking for the handout. Re batla fela ha re lefapha re kopa le re thuse ka polasi, for instance, gore re kgone ho tsaya bana bana re ba ise farmong le ka ba bonyane ba 100 hectares. We've never received that. And ho bohloko ha o le a young person o le mme especially or run a business e yalo, because you always come across batho ba bontate bongata mona lefapeng, and then mang o tla o jwetsa gore na o tla mfa eng ntho tse jwalo he monyane jwang. So ke batla ho tseba na re thusa jwang, especially bomme in business and especially in agriculture in the Free State.
Okay. Thank you, Kolo. Noted. I'm gonna go to the next one. I keep your order guys majwa. Tatoat. Tatoat, welcome. And your question, please. Una coffee. Tatoat ya re le mo mutile. Fourth Industrial Revolution. Try somebody else.
Honest, Abuti,
Eh, apa?
Abuti, ke na le potso tse ya os mo wa marketing director ya casino ngwaneso.
Promotion.
Potso ya ka ya hae ke hore na kutlwa ho
Skatsheya botsa potso Tatoat.
wa nkutlwa ngwaneso.
Eh, ha ga utlwa ngwaneso wena ka nna bu.
Ke re potso ya ka ke kopa ho botsa Osmo pele ha re qale ka Osmo ore ba kgona ho thusa di company ho register on their database akere.
Okay.
So potsong eo ya ka hore ya ngwaneso potso ya ka ke hore fela ha re ba thusa batho kgale ke apply ho bona kgale ke apply mara ke sa kgone ho ba successful. Potso ya bobedi ke ya ene ke ibutsitseng ya hore na mmuso o thusa jwang ha ke re ke na le polasi nna ke na le polasi maybe a certain hectares re produce animal feed, and ha ke re mmuso o mpatale but ke re ho bona ke na le lusere ke le nana ke le rekisa ka price e cheapanyana le ka kgona ho nthusa jwang mo cause ke la ka nna ka isa idea ye ho mayor a ba o tla e fetisetsa ho MEC wa agriculture land since ke ema he okay fine corona e be qala he ha ke so fumane feedback
Okay.
ke potso tsa ka tse ngwaneso
Ke a leboha thatohatsi. Ke kopa nka o mongwe before ba di araba. Ke a homa. Okay. Che. Challenges tsa batho ba bomme, which is a common challenge e thata haholo hore young black women every time but lisa the proposal to different departments they're being encountered with a situation whereby inna ntwele ya uzonika ini kukunike kamnandi, understand, and it's one of the challenges tse di nyahamisitseng batjha ba bangata. Trade exchange, your take.
That is condemnable and is wrong. And as and when those instances are taking place, I think they should be reported. It's quite insulting that in this time and era, there are still those that wants to oppress the women further.
True.
Your viewers would remember that in the history of our struggle, women were the ones that were mostly oppressed on the basis of them being women. And again, they were further oppressed on the basis of class and further on the basis of their race. So we can't still have people who are out of order when we're now supposed to emancipate women and Bona, they are doing their own things. I know everyone in the ANC is very passionate about the women's struggle because it's not only the women's league issue, but it's the issue about every member of the organization and everyone who is conscious enough. But I would say quickly on the issues that they have raised, because most of them, they relate to agriculture largely. I think we'll take their details and ensure that they find their way to the agri department. And Mayor that has also spoke about, I think part of what she's doing, there's a business side to it. Is a matter that even the department can work together with the Department of Agriculture, and we share responsibilities given the constraints of resources. But I must announce that tomorrow they should watch out. The Premier and I would be announcing the various types of assistance.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Which are meant to stimulate the economy. And perhaps their initiatives might find expression in those. We'll be announcing it publicly because we're going to have a 3-week window period in that regard.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Osmo, since we've got Osmo, Tatuatse has been applying to your entity to be on the database, and he's been struggling for years. I know Tatuatse is into events also, and he's got infrastructure. So, processes, what processes can he take?
As far as my knowledge goes, you apply on the system online, and you'll get declined, which I'm presuming that's what happened with him, if you are non-compliant. And they will let you know, the system lets you know why you are non-compliant, and you get time to fix that and you can reapply. So I haven't been made aware, because normally what happens if it's sitting in the entertainment and infrastructure space, it lands on my desk. So I get an email, because everything is automated. So I'll get an email to be asked about this specific company that had just registered for XYZ service, and they've been onboarded on our system. So I haven't received that part. So I can get in touch with him. I think I have him on Facebook, and I'll try and follow up as to what the process was, and I'll get in touch with procurement as well about that. But to my knowledge, it's either you're compliant or non-compliant.
Okay. Lunga, is there any transformation in your office? I'm reading it as it is.
No, it's a fair question.
Yeah.
Is there any transformation in my office? We have a company of about total employees, 50. 70% of those are black people. About 40% of those are black females. So I think you can judge for yourself how we're doing in terms of transformation.
Okay. Chair, I got another question regarding the agricultural space, and of which now I believe Jorge, we need to have a follow-up session with the Department of Agriculture. In fact, with different departments, because most of the people, they want to know how can they have access to land, which that question comes up again, access to land, that the Youth League has been actually speaking about. But Malekheto, before you vote, the pharmaceutical industry, that space, it's a very sensitive space, whereby we see most pharmaceutical companies are still white owned. I know of one person who owns a pharmacy.
A company, the plant that actually produces the
No, no, no.
drugs, or a pharmacy.
I don't want to go. Okay, maybe we can make you confuse them more. Like, you about a person who owns a pharmacy.
Oh, okay.
Arrest that demo, because going into the plant itself, clearly, I haven't seen any black person in that space. You understand? But let's talk about the pharmacies itself. Any colleagues that you have? Anybody that you know of?
I actually know a lot of people.
So there is transformation in that space.
There is transformation. I think it's just a matter of actually getting capital to buy your equipment and to buy the drugs as a startup, and maybe get a place where you'll rent out the place and get a good area where you'll open your pharmacy. But I don't think it's ever been an issue for black people, unless you're specifically speaking about a pharmaceutical company that actually produces the drugs. Okay. But for a pharmacy, I've got friends that are pharmacists that have opened their own successful pharmacies. So I think it's that matter of maybe getting capital as a startup to buy the drugs, to buy the equipment, and
so we're making progress in that one.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. They're mostly in small towns, because I know I've got a friend in Vicksburg that has a pharmacy in Vicksburg, Velcom as well. So I think. Even here in Bloemfontein, I think it's owned by a black person, the one
in
at Kenworth.
Yeah, I know him very well.
Yeah, so...
Okay. Can I take your caller before you take that one?
Okay.
Yeah.
To adding.
What she was saying.
Yeah, can I please take your caller, then you add on top of that one. Caller!
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Tandom Kauli. I'm the CEO of Marang Consulting. I'm based in the Free State. My question relates to the procurement. We always hear that there's a 30% set aside for youth-based businesses. But however, in true form, how much has that been implemented?
Can you repeat the last part? Can you please repeat the last part?
I want to know how much in real terms, how much has that policy been implemented of 30% set aside for youth businesses from a procurement perspective?
Chair Witwer? Okay. You can take it.
Yeah, no, I think I must appreciate that initially it was a matter which other state institutions could still get away with. But I can indicate that I have seen government putting stringent measures, such as continuous report on all the departments, including municipalities. There's a particular type of reporting that is required. And I think even the Department of Treasury has started to follow up, because in all of these procurement issues there are constant reports that must be sent. But at the level of the province, this is one of the standing matters in some of the meetings of the executive. So the matters gets to be monitored, and thus far we get the sense that everyone is complying. There may have been here and there where there are issues, but again, the society has been conscientized, because It's very rare that someone can just go in there and wants to live without. Before the person arrives, young people and the small contractors are already waiting for that thing to happen. So I don't think the environment still allows for anyone to. Yeah.
I believe, gore, lately there's this mentality ya gore we have to receive things on a silver plate. And that mentality is what's actually killing the youth currently. Due to the fact that gore, I've seen there's a demand. I've met a couple of youth members who would say, I'm entitled to gain something from government. Every time there's an issue with, for example, with the arts and the creative side, come Makufe, you hear that artist standing up and saying, I'm entitled to perform in Makufe, but they're not looking at what they've been doing in their craft. Elia Lunga, you wanted to add something before I go to my voice notes.
Yes, on what Dr. Mahale was referring to on the pharmacies. I think it's important that we introduce our youth to a basic concept called economies of scale. Now, if you want to start a pharmacy in Bloemfontein, you're going to have a pretty hard time of it. You have to compete with Dischem and Clicks. They can source and sell at a lower price than you could ever as an individual.
And that's gonna...
That business model will work in a rural town. It will not work in a city, as things stand. For the same reason, the spaza shop cannot compete with the mall. It really is that simple.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Mahale and MEC Mahale, there's no relations, by the way. There's no nepotism, so don't be shocked. So I'm going to take a voice. I actually, last night, I asked a couple of youth members to actually send through their voice note, just only to tell us what do they think about this day. So if my technical crew is ready, please give me the first one.
Well, Hotman, to be honest, I haven't seen a change from since then. ANCYL on this youth base. Tot vandaag is er gewoon. I feel like the struggle is still the same. I'm thinking of a woman probably 5 years back. 5 years back should be different from now. Like na kwenyani. Kami even choosing a deal like na kweyu. 5 years back, but still, when they face another youth feeling they are seated at home, having a misbehavior, sitting with qualifications for that matter, that one hurts the most. Because if Ulamocha go coming from the poor family or university, making them proud, doing what you gotta do, coming back again home with your qualification in hand, you cannot find a job. Up and down. When it comes to Free State, it hurts the most. Like I'm talking about my cycle, man. Being an artist to Free State, it's a survival of the fittest. How it's only the province is it in.
I believe the Free State government is not doing enough to support young entrepreneurs or young people who are in business, because if really they were supporting young people in business, we couldn't have young people who are owning salons, who are selling vegetables, and who own stock shops and our locations struggling the way they do, more especially in this time of COVID-19. They are having a hard time because not all people have money to buy or whatever. So I still believe there's still more to be done. There's still more to be done for young people. And
I don't think that the government is actually doing enough when it comes to supporting young people that engages into the business. The reason I'm saying it is because, yes, the government does have the funds, and then the government funds young people who approaches them. But the most important thing that they fail young people in terms of, it is mentorship. Show me any great businesswoman or businessman, I will tell you the person had encountered before a mentor that was able to actually show this person a way. Now you find youngsters having the money from the government, but now they don't know how to utilize the funds effectively in the way that will be able to give them
the profit, and now they just open the businesses, but their businesses fails. You'll find that they open a business and then in a term of maybe a year, the businesses has failed. Why has it failed? It failed because the person didn't even have mentorship. Who was there to guide the person on how to enter into new things? No, they are just wasting their money, providing young people with their money. If you give someone money without mentorship, you are just wasting your time and your energy and everything.
Ke tseo he. Our youth, they feel the government is not doing enough for them. And another one who sent through a comment is that our black leadership is not doing enough, because we say we are currently in leadership as the ANC, of which black people look up to it, but they feel ba kwallwa ko ntle. Like you say, there's one comment that came through Maring, a white person can drop out of school, but they'll still qualify for a painting tender. But Rona, when you're supposed to apply for certain things, we are being required to submit your PhDs, your masters, your what. So, Chair, in terms of, I'm coming back to you again as the Youth League, because you need to speak on behalf of our brothers and sisters there. There's this silent wall in front of us as young black people, whereby we're being requested to submit certain qualifications that we don't have, but we have the skills. And bear in mind, back in the days, our fathers who started business, the supermarket and taxi ownership and certain other businesses, they didn't have those qualifications. I can gladly say we know of well-known business people in Bloemfontein who do not even have master's degrees, but they're doing well. Why is our brothers and sisters still struggling to get access to certain things, Mr. Youth League?
No, first and foremost, it is, I think the Congress movement has always understood the importance of education. We should not at any given point be tempted to underrate the importance of one being qualified. I think that's a first principle. But at the same time, we have always been alive to the reality that other people possesses the skill and they have not been able to be certified accordingly on that skill. And I think it is for that reason that you don't have other alternative means or mechanisms to recognize those skills, such as your RPL, recognition of prior learning, where someone could demonstrate through processes, compile a portfolio that will be tested to recognize that skill at a particular level of academy. So I think that was one of the greatest interventions brought by ANC governments to recognize it. But generally on the issue of the whites and blacks, where the caller says the person who sent the
comment,
message,
yeah.
the comment. I tend not to understand why that should happen in government, where there would be that discrimination. Maybe it's one of those cases that needs to be dealt with specifically, because our government is clear. It needs to afford opportunities on an equitable basis. And that suggests in itself that it means those that did not have opportunities before needs to be placed at the forefront in order to achieve equity. So it can't be the other way around.
Okay.
So I think it's one matter that would need a specific a follow-up to.
Can I hear another one?
Yeah, no, sure.
This one is from Felix Mugwena, Celsi. And basically he's touching on collaboration of government, different departments and public sector and the private sector. what we've noticed within the industry is that there's this operation of silo, mang operator le wane, and kanako we're trying to build this economy at the Free State. Chair, your department, is it open to collaborations? I know like Mo is one of you guys are in the same bed. Excuse.
Tourism bed.
Tourism bed.
Okay.
But is there collaboration between the public sector and the private sector in terms of trying to find a solution to this economic problem? Are you open to that, if I may put it that way also?
More than open. And because there is a context to it. You'd remember our department, as compared to the other ones, there is some interesting observation. You know, other departments, when they say there must be schools, they all build the schools themselves. When kids say they want education, they'll hire teachers, they'll give them education.
I can vouch for...
Exactly. Others, when they are able to do directly. But with ours is 99% of what we have to do relies on the third parties. That is why there is no way in which we may not have the collaborations. We rely on the private sector to create jobs, just as the first and fundamental responsibility of a department. We are regulating a sector, or we are a player in the sector where some of the activities for us to achieve a particular outcome, it will relate, or it will rely on how best do we relate with them, on how best do we cooperate. So the cornerstone of the Department of Economic Development is actually collaborations. Yeah, so it is, when we collaborate, that's when we do our work, basically. So as and when there's a new person coming to have any collaboration or working relations, it's more than welcomed because it assists our program of developing the economy.
I've been calling out, especially for your department, to actually collaborate with the Department of Arts and Culture in terms of driving the tourism side by utilizing the artists that are in the province. For example, look at what KZN is doing, the collaboration between arts and culture and tourism with Tira and the rest, the Body Devon Rocks. I mean, like, it's completely a different story. But Lunga, I'm coming back to you. Okwatisitse moto. Tabo are Lunga unkwatisa man. Because I did civil engineering at CUT, and in most cases I have helped the university students with their designs, even on site. Kaspane sabo. Lunga okwatisitse ngwana batho.
No, I mean, you're entitled to your feelings.
Yeah.
You're just not entitled to your own facts.
Yeah, true, but what he's referring to is that technical students are actually assisting university students. No, let me not use the word students.
No, I mean, assisting people, graduates, yes, that's obvious. That's an obvious. It's the fact that I was saying earlier that when you graduate from university, your practical knowledge is very low versus when you come out straight from a technicon.
And, okay.
It's just a very different level of thinking. When Malakazo graduates as a doctor, she knows very little compared to a nurse. You know, you learn a lot. Doctors learn a lot from nurses when they start out.
Thank you.
That's how these things operate.
And we need more doctors and nurses, by the way. Yeah, I get. We've got a caller. Oh.
Can we just say we didn't answer? There was a gentleman who asked about the 30%. How much of it is been realized? I just want to advise our entrepreneurs, our small business people, when a contract comes up in your community and you think you're eligible for that contract with a portion of it, identify that particular thing on the bill of quantities that you think you can provide. It's unlikely that you'll be able to do 30% of the total value of the works, even if it's just 2%. If it's a contract for building houses, RDP houses, and you've set up your little brick making plant, and you think you can supply to that contractor. That's how you get that portion of that 30%.
Okay.
You don't get the whole thing. Chances are chances are the contractor might be doing you a favor because your rate will most likely, because of you operating on your own, be higher than what you would have tendered. So he's generally making a loss. on that thing.
Hence, it comes back to that issue of understanding. You understand? Because I've noticed that most people, they don't understand that. Motho ke na ka entitlement ya hore, I'm black, I'm privileged, I'm young, I'm entitled to so much. Okay, but can I take your caller? I've got Bokamoso, Mase. She's the owner of Bokamoso Catering and Restaurant. Yo, Mase. Mase bu. Mase ntse a phehile kgopolo no. Hello. Okay, while we're still having those technical issues, Kana Nto, Malkhet, you're still in the public sector. You're still doing, is it practicals or is it?
No, I've actually completed, I get like your first degree is the MBCHB, where you just become like a doctor and then you do your internship for 2 years and then ComServe. So currently now I'm a specialist in internal medicine. So I studied a further 4 years after completing.
Yo.
Yeah, so so specialist at the moment. Yeah. So I'm in.
Tell me something. For you to go through school, did you get a bursary? How did you get through school?
Yeah, I did. In my matric, I was actually in the top 100 of the Free State. So yeah.
Yes.
So because of that, like everyone in the top 100 got a bursary. So that's what I got, a bursary for the 5 years. And the payback was just service to the Free State. I didn't like have to physically pay it. It was just service, 5 years, the amount that they actually paid for me. So I had to provide a service, but still earning my salary.
Was it a government bursary or private?
Government. It was a government bursary.
MEC. Well done.
So the opportunities are there. Can I just comment on something on the voice notes, the previous 3 voice notes?
If you can keep it short, I need to take your call.
I'll try to keep it short. I just heard a lot of entitlement from people that government owes me this, they owe me this, they have to give it to me, And I don't like that type of mentality of entitlement that people are supposed to give you stuff. Because government, let's say now it's only providing funding for, let's say, 100 people only, and you're not part of the 100 that gets the funding. Then what's going to happen to you if you have that mentality of they have to give it to me? So I think people should try to come out of that mentality and realize that to start a business, you can start small, like with small capital to get ultimately to maybe where you want to get. I was speaking to my cousin because my cousin was struggling to get a job as well, and that thing of wanting employment as well. I think it's a problem because I think we should seek more to try and make solutions and make our own businesses and be entrepreneurs instead of wanting to be employed.
Can I cut you on that? Because I'm going to come back to that issue of entitlement. Because I also want to touch on it. I need to take Mase before I'm Guatela. Mase, di khogolo di butswitse.
Hello.
Hello, Mase.
Hello.
Wa nkutlwa? Mase.
Ke a utlwa.
Di khogolo di butswitse.
Hello, le kae?
Potso ya gago e reng ngwaneso?
Ke a utlwa. Hello.
Question? Mas?
I wanted to ask the MEC, I'm one of the products of Balaria, the Free State. I studied education. I'm a qualified teacher, but that resigned last year. And I ventured into a business that I tapped into 2017. And from the business, as a youth that started a business at the age of 26 and resigned at 30 and have employed over 5 people in the Free State and in Bloemfontein. It saddens me that funding, the youth that is working hard, and all the other things. Can be funding. The startup capital, but where the business and all those things. These are wrong because I'd like to believe that he knows me. I also know him and I've been to his office. And all that. It's very demotivating that as a young black woman in Bloemfontein, that I might say myself that I'm doing so good. And yeah, so there's like a touch. But you get into somebody catering, the totally capital, in totally in a sense, the information doesn't even get to us as people. By no one, and we always see the same people in Bloemfontein getting these things, the same people in these things, and it's not a matter of being entitled. Remember, and we can see even in Bloemfontein who's working and who's not working. We have studied. The applications who exclude that they want this from you, they want this and they want that. But at the end of the day, what is the government doing? Because I also feel like it's not doing enough. It's not doing enough in recognizing some of us that are really working hard. Economy and in hurry. We put food on the tables of people that are waiting for us. But at the end of the day, there's no assistance, there's no nothing that we get from the government. And having self-entitlement, that if you see a youth that is doing good, what are you guys also doing to help those people? Because, like, let's just be honest, and the same people keep on getting the funds. The same people that we know that they in A, and then if you happen to ask how, you don't even get the information. Government more yarona, okay, but is mother capable of doing that job? Is mother capable of getting the job done? Is mother capable of cooking that meat that is wanted for meeting me where NC's office now? Or mother of winter, mother of subcontract and Bikelid is the one cooking that. And who put winter render out of the 100 rands that Bikelid wanted? What is our government doing? Because they do so many things.
Mase. Okay. Okay, Mase. I'm gonna summarize your question basically.
The thing is, I have so much that I wanted to say, but whatever I can glean from what I said, you can answer it.
Okay.
But, in short, I was saying, that are true.
Okay. Mase, galeboga ka kholwa. We don't have much time, but utlile yeah, dikeledi tsa Mase di alla. Mase o lla ka, she's not entitled, but she would hear of tenders that are not aware of which most young people are actually complaining about that. There was one comment that I also read, there was one time where transversal contracts were advertised, but we weren't even aware of. The next thing we hear of people who got 3-year contracts and we didn't get anything about that. Communication process, government, that's another issue that's been touched on. Your take about that, favoritism, it's gonna come back to entitlement that we're gonna talk about also.
Yeah, well, I may not be. I think she spoke on general issues. One, the issue of transversals is they are arranged by Treasury.
Yeah.
So it's a matter that one may have to go and go back and check all of those concerns that she has raised as to which of the tender went out, and no one knew, only the few, because there's a prescribed way of advertising all the bids of government on your different portals, websites, and so on. So if that did not happen, then it would have been something else. But it will, of course, be subject as to verification and get specific information. On the issue of funding for businesses, I think I'll invite her to also check on these visual platforms when we announce with the Premier, because we are a government that strives to have transparent way of doing things. So there's no one who would come and say, I heard whoever was given funding, we didn't know. Yeah, so it's a public information. We have already advertised that tomorrow we'll be announcing. The other reality is that given the high demand of the assistance, is practically impossible. I've not seen any province or even any country that is able to support everyone. I think that's another reality, because there are a number of difficult decisions when you are government to make. When we sit as there during the budget, I stand on top of tables and say, I must get the lion's share because I'm the one that, if economy can do well, I would have resolved all of your problems. And the MEC education will come as well. So, no, but education is the apex priority. And MEC health will come and say, but that economy of yours, it will grow, but there won't be people. People will all be dead. So
social comes also.
Social comes and say, what about this one that are sleeping on the street? Your economy won't even benefit them, because some don't have IDs, they can't even work, and they don't have parents. Housing say, but shelter is one of your basic needs. You can't practice any economic activity. So there are a number of justifiable for everyone. And the unfortunate part is, as the kit is so small.
True.
So that is why we're trying in the balancing act that we are that is taking place. We try to be as much transparent as possible, and she will see even tomorrow when we announce. It's not everything. We say these are the priority in line with the plans of government, and it doesn't mean those sectors which may not have been prioritized are useless. It's simply because at that point in time, when there is this plan, the funding has to be aligned accordingly. So I think I thought that I should just also remind about those realities. In an ideal situation, we would want to help everyone.
True.
Yeah, in an ideal situation. So, and we also have a criteria you'll hear tomorrow when we outline these are the requirements, and also explain the reasoning behind a particular criterion. And not to be controversial, we are moving away from giving grants in Torana business. But what we are mostly doing is to have a risk-sharing type of an approach. I give you a grant, I give you a loan, but also give you a grant, because under normal circumstances, when you go to a bank, if you don't have anything you contribute, you would not get it. So at least I can give you something to go and unlock that. So there's a quite hybrid type of things that we do, so that we can reach the majority. So in navigating all of those difficult decisions that we make, but the entire process is embedded by the principles of fairness and transparency. That's why we go out, because we have listened. We appreciate one thing about the ANC government, is that we're the government that listens to people. When people says Hey, now I've been applying, I don't get, now I came when? No, in January, now I came in August. Then we said, maybe let's do a different way. Let's open for everyone. Everyone
see what-
apply within the criteria. So that everyone knows must be open this thing. Because when people just walk in, the money ends on the third person. The fourth person then asks you, why now I'm not assisted? Why you have assisted the one before? And also, of course, it's legitimate answer. In all the things being the same, I have an entitlement to be assisted. Now, but when you tell the person, no, there's no money, it becomes difficult to understand. So when you've made it open, everyone knows. We'll even announce that we only had this much, even at the end of the day, we have received this much. This is how far we could go. Surely our people will understand, because once there is transparency, there are no suspicions.
But Chair, it's one of those situations where a person who's sitting on the other side, they will say, I voted for you to actually help me. And what they don't understand is that Rabangat, one. That's why I'm gonna touch on more of entitlement. I wanna take an ad break because I need to take an ad break. But when we come back, I've got a question based on Makufe tourism, so you can prepare yourself for that. And we're gonna also touch on some of the achievements that we've achieved as the ANC government, or the government on its own, because we've got one accolade who actually graduated as a doctor with a bursary. So without wasting any time, can I go pay my bills? And I'll be back. Aye, we are back with a bang. And we came to, this is our last segment that we'll be closing up. And we're going to have a follow-up. And hopefully we're going to have this thing, we're going to have it annually. Ne, MEC? Ne, Chair? We're going to have an annual discussion or quarterly discussion. This we need to engage even further. And I have one question which, it's quite interesting in fact. It's relating to COVID-19. It's from Lehloonolo Mokoena, also known as Hloniwa Alaen. And he's asking, Hore, what is your view, Chair, in terms of regarding the budget, ya Makufe? Because the budget was actually injected into COVID-19 without proper consultation of the creative sector. And to extend even the question to you more, With Makufe not happening this year, what's going to happen to you, my friend? Go basically, this question goes for you and Chair, but I want you to take that part first. But you must remember one thing, we're wrapping up. Ne? I don't have much time.
Yeah, you can tell the chair that, not me. Nam. Straight to the point. What does that mean for us? I will speak for the industry because I think I play in the role of the industry of entertainment first before I speak of the corporate. For the entertainment industry, it is a bit disheartening because, you know, an influx of their revenue stream comes from that particular weekend or that week.
I know.
Yes, and as a business operating in that as well, you know, it's a great way to get in people from different provinces and different towns to come in. So it is a detriment, but it's not over because at the end of the day, what matters most? Are we more concerned about the fact that we're losing out that income versus protecting the lives of people? I think the sentiment for people in South Africa at the moment is we're worrying about people's lives first. Although it's a detriment to their livelihood, but you know, we worry about the lives first. I mean, for us right now, it's a big question as to what's going to happen. You know, once our industry or our sector is open, how are we going to operate? It's going to be quite difficult with the protocols in place, and especially when it comes to physical distancing, it's an issue. So for us, it's a tit for tat. It's a catch-22. But at the end of the day, yeah, artists will be artists. They always want a stage. But I think with the new normal, which I embrace a lot, there are so many ample opportunities to actually capture an audience using what we have now in the new normal. So it doesn't just limit you onto a stage, Yamakufe. There's so much more that you can do. And I mean, this channel has done it pretty well with the virtual parties that you guys used to host here.
Yeah.
And you actually got other corporates to buy in on that. So there are so many ample opportunities. Let's not only focus on Makufe not being there, it means there's no money. No, there are other opportunities for you to actually grasp and play in that role. And I embrace the new normal. I'm very excited about the new normal. I can't wait
But
for post.
I even announced how the heat wave is not cancelled yet.
I don't know.
Like, woo.
The government will tell me if I'm allowed to have heat wave. Because remember, as much as it's nice to support the creative, I also have to respond to the Department of Police and city manager to tell me yes you can or no you can't. So if it's compliant, sure, let's try it. We'll put barriers around people for physical distancing. I've seen crazy things out there. So
I'm always compliant more.
Yeah.
Chair, your take, the creative sector wasn't consulted and budget was moved to COVID-19.
Yeah, well, I think Osmome has just indicated that there are some of difficult decisions that you have to make. But what we understand is that in the midst of the entire COVID, everyone's focus was to save lives. And in the current generation of our society, surely there's no one who has ever experienced COVID before.
True.
So when COVID came, while we did not prepare for it, some of the decisions that we take, the only guiding factor was how do we save lives. And I have yet, I will not speak with authority on issues relating to the creative sector. Safe to say, I only hear that there were some discussions. I think that's why the culmination of the fund. Perhaps it did not happen initially when the decision was made, but one thing that I'll appreciate is that the government went back to seek their views. And I know one of the suggestions was that please put something so that we inform of a relief fund, which I know for a fact it has happened. Well, it may not be sufficient, of course, because I have never heard anyone who said across all the funds that it was enough. So I will not speak with authority on that one, but I just want to say no one knew how to respond to COVID. We had to apply our minds on what we thought at that point in time.
Yes, the saving
Yeah,
mechanism.
and the other reality, to be frank and open with everyone, our country is facing serious fiscal pressures. no one had additional money for anything.
True.
My department has lost substantially. The funds that I'm putting up there, it's not the new money. It's the money that I was supposed to do what number of things. So I had to find a way on how do we respond, seeing that businesses have collapsed, and unlike other businesses of those that had cash reserves and so on, majority of our people did not have anything that they could use to resuscitate. Hence, we come up with this. But no one came with additional 1 cent, so we had to work from that which we have for the best interest of our people. Someone else will still come and say, "Hey, you have made the funds to help businesses. It means you have reduced the training you are supposed to give me from 5 to 1, or I'm going to forfeit the training." You know what I'm saying? So, in the midst of making some of these difficult decisions, I think we should always remain optimistic that decisions of government are not meant to offend people.
They are there to save lives.
They are there to save lives, and maybe if COVID-19 can come again after 5 years, well, there will still be those that are alive. They would know better now how to plan. But in this instance, no one knew. Many corporates didn't provide reserves. Some have just declared dividends in December. Now COVID comes, they say, "Hey, we shouldn't have declared. We should have put that cash reserves aside," and so on. So the only understanding we request from our people is that understanding that at no point that we intend us to harm anyone or to make anyone suffer. It was just in that particular context. And I must say, the people of Free State have really supported all the efforts that were done by government.
And just to jump in here, I gotta applaud the creative sector because they've been the most disciplined sectors of all. As difficult as it is for us, we've been cooperating with the government's initiative and all that. So big ups to everybody out there. And I know we are closing. My team, please don't kill me, but I have to take 2 more questions. They're quite interesting. This one goes to you back to... These 2 questions goes back to you, Chair, but please keep it short. Chair, what is the view of the ANC Youth League on the inflated public sector, where we have young unemployed graduate versus 55-year-olds that are not willing to adapt to the evaluation of society? That's question number 1. Question number 2. Question number 2. What does one, this one is from Channel, what does one have to do to get one Botshabelo factory on a lease or ownership? I would like to establish my tire manufacturing business in one of the factories in Botshabelo. But the struggle is that I cannot go to anyone because no one is giving me direction. Those are the closing 2 comments. Then we go to the wrap up.
No, thanks. The easier one.
The easier
about
one.
The factories, I think someone has also raised it before, just that I forgot to respond to it. One, we have made those factories available. And anyone that still encounter a problem, I think must just contact my office directly.
Okay.
That's the long and short of it, or the office of the HOD.
Office of the HOD.
Yeah, and to a point where we have even availed some concessions, like rental holiday and so on. Because it makes no point to stay with factories when people really need space to create jobs. What is a priority now is to see our people creating jobs, and they would need space. Hence, those factories are available for them. If there's 100 people that comes here tomorrow and then they will all take all of them, we will be happy for that, for as long as there will be employment created. I don't understand why is it still a problem. On the issue of the old people,
Parliament is not functioning right now because
no.
COVID, high risk.
The position of the youth league, has always been South Africa needs to conform to the changing times. The society of the country is getting younger and younger. And you would need to have young people who are able to respond to the dynamics of society. It's a given issue that how I would relate with people of my generation, I can better understand them than someone who's probably triple my age and so on. It's natural. It's not with intention of being offensive, because some of the older ones' experiences might not be relevant now. Even technologies evolves and so on. So the view of the Youth League has always been that young people need to be given opportunities. And young people need to find space to be the drivers of change. It is natural that an effect that some of the people, or people as they get older, they are not susceptible to change. They still want to do the things the way, and they feel antagonized with the new ideas and so on. Very few that find it very easy to. So we are still of the firm view that the state must get younger. And we have appreciated last year when there was that dispensation that people at a particular age, they can be allowed to retire early, to make ways for the younger ones. But it's not necessarily about age in the main, but it's to make way for the new skill. If you look at the history of the public service from 94, you had to employ anyone with a degree, whether relevant or not. Because unfortunately, some of the positions you needed to have at least a certain level of qualification. And as and when opportunities were being made available by the democratic government, you started to have a cohort of young people who now possesses the relevant skills. So in the past, it used to be very difficult to have black IT graduates. It was used to be very difficult to have qualified accountants or chartered accountants. They used to only be white. And you would find the CFO just being placed there by virtue of being black. It's a fact. But now we've got the skill. So it means this is an opportune moment to ensure that that skill is being put into use. We need to get the youngsters to do our IT models and all the other issues. For an example, now they are using IT a lot to do the contact tracing. It's youngsters there. There's no elder there. So it means we need to create more space. The state or the government, as one of the tools or machinery of the state, must be structured such that it's able to attract talent. And those that I think they have reached their period of service, it is not being offensive, but it's the right thing to do, to allow the youngsters, and those that are still there, they should facilitate a process where that skill, if any, that they still possess, the young can still drink from that well. I think that is the whole context. That is not that we say the elders must be chased away, but we appreciate that some of the elders may no longer be relevant to the changing and dynamic needs of the society.
So we must actually work on that transformation.
Yes, and it needs to be fast.
Yeah, very quick. Chair, I'm going to cut you short, but because I'm going to call you back again very soon to actually continue on this dialogue. I want us to have it quarterly so that we can engage with different sectors and different people. And Lunga, my production manager is killing me. Ne? You've got 10 seconds. Closing remarks.
Closing remarks. Well, to the youth of the Free State, all I want to say to them is please take responsibility for your own lives. All the government can do for you is provide you with opportunities, circulate information in a fair way, equitably, but what they cannot do for you is guarantee you that you will benefit from the opportunities that come out. Those opportunities that come out, those who benefit from these opportunities are those who are best suited to take advantage of them. We all start grade 1, we all get a chance to go to school, at least under this democratic government. We all have an opportunity to go to school, but we'd not all get the same marks, we'd not all graduate high school the same.
Thank you.
You have our skills, and those who benefit will be those with the best skills.
That's 20 seconds.
Thank you.
Dr. Mohali, who doesn't relate to MEC Mohali? You have 10 seconds also.
What I would like to say is that to the youth is that your future is in your hands, and it's up to you to make it happen. And you must adapt having a positive mindset and not always wanting to have handouts. You can always start small and build from that. Because it's not always, like Lunga said, that the government will be able to provide the funding or the tender. So start small and build from that.
Thank you. Osmo.
Honestly, my name is Mowi Mohapi, hey? Osmo, I'm not even 30 yet. My goodness.
Oh yeah, you're the youngest managing director. Can I call it director?
Marketing manager.
Marketing manager.
In Sun International.
In
yes.
Sun International, by the way.
One of, actually.
One of.
One of, yes. Anyway, but majority is females. There's only 2 male marketing managers in Sun International. Transformation, guys. So in closing, I want to say to the youth of South Africa, there's a new commodity in town. Its name is essential. Anything that fell under anything essential during this COVID-19 is an opportunity for the future. With regards to food production, with regards to healthcare, with regards to anything that was available during Alert 5 is something that you need to look at for future. Because like the Honorable MEC said, you know, we don't know if we're going to get another COVID-19 in the next 5 years.
Please don't say that.
It could be, no, but it's a reality. We could actually be dealing with a climate-based pandemic or a climate crisis. So to be best suited and be ready and geared for it, let's use the new normal as an opportunity. Let's not be scared, and definitely embrace this change. We've done it very well. We're adapting to change very well. We're walking around with our masks. We're sanitizing every 5 seconds. It shows that we are an adaptable type of humanity or species. So there's no excuse.
Okay.
New commodity, essential.
Thank you very much. And on those notes, I'd like to actually thank everybody who's been tuning in at home. And I'd like to say to the youth, look, happy Youth Month. And don't forget one thing. There's no stupid idea when it comes to life. Anything is possible. Chair wants to close, and I was trying to avoid that. But because I'm going to bring him back again, but Chair, you can give me 5 seconds. I'm giving you 5 seconds, literally.
No, mine was simple. Young people, they have responsibility and a role to play in the society. And the ANC Youth League remains their home, particularly for the professionals. All of these ideas, we need them in the ANC Youth League. The ANC Youth League is not the home for few. It's the home for everyone. It's through the Youth League that we influence the policy of the governing party. And your interest must be represented by yourselves. But we all have responsibility to build a prosperous South Africa and the Free State. Thank you.
And on that note, Chair, since you put me on the spot, I'm going to put you on the spot. Quarterly, I'm going to call you to come here and report on certain things, economic-wise, for the youth that has been happening. And I'm going to open up channels to the youth members to actually submit some of the challenges that are facing that I can bring onto the table. And I'll also invite them onto the panel going forward so that you can also engage with them. So without wasting any time, you're going to become my friend on the surgical quarterly. So, like I was saying, there's no stupid idea. You must remember one thing. Another man's trash is another man's treasure. So go out there and do the best thing. And also, tomorrow, the MEC of Economic Development and our Premier, Messi Sintombela, will be rolling out the plan, the recovery plan, the economical recovery plan for the Free State province. So tune into Free State Online and tune into other community radio station. And also on the 30th, we'll be bringing you the Premier's Youth Breakfast, of whom the chair will also be there. whereby we'll be dissecting more of these issues, but there will be another host. So without wasting any time, thank you very much for tuning in and for availing your data to us. Hopefully, data connectivity will become a thing of the past very soon. So without wasting any time, thank you very much. And ke kopa go le leboga go mamella serame se ne re le ka o sona. Thank you.